Welcome to Wait What? Sportsbiz Chat with DP and McGee, the podcast where we take a sometimes irreverent, a sometimes cynical, and yes, even a sometimes serious look at the business of sports. I'm your co-host, Tim McGee.
And I'm David Parro.
David, greetings from beautiful Austin, Texas, where I am for Major League Soccer and All-Star festivities. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I hope everything is going well down there in Austin. I love Austin. It's a great place, but I got to think it's hot. I have not.
You know, it's not too. I was out for a walk this morning. It wasn't too bad. The humidity wasn't that high yet, and there was a little bit of a breeze. But going out later to go over to the stadium for the skills challenge, I'm sure it's going to be brutal.
Well, right before we pressed the record button for this week's episode, we got the notification about Ozzy Osbourne dying. I'm kind of bummed about this, given the fact that just a couple weeks ago he performed a concert with the original members of Black Sabbath in Birmingham, his birthplace, and 76 years old, man. Just, that is a bummer. I'm not even that much of a Sabbath fan.
I'm not either, but
he's a legend. I mean, big-time legend.
Yeah, it is sad, and I'm glad that he got to reunite with some of his former bandmates for that show at Villa Park Stadium 3 weeks ago, and he's passed. And I will say that was one of the few reality shows that I would actually watch with any sort of regularity.
Yeah, the Osbournes.
Yeah, back at the turn of the millennium. And you know, one of their daughters refused to participate, but the other two, Kelly and Jack, have parlayed that into careers on their own, so good for them. But yeah, he was one of a kind, and boy, did he pack a lot of living into those 76 years.
Yeah, he sure did. And just to make the connection here, he was an Aston fan, a big Aston Villa fan. He also loved hockey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Followed the St. Louis Blues. Yeah, he was an avid hockey fan, which I think was pretty cool. So rest in peace, Ozzy, and best and peace to all the survivors. He'll be missed. He definitely was one of a kind. I also want to point out, because we missed our predictions. We normally make predictions during major events in golf and the Open Championship, of course, this week, and Scottie Scheffler ran away with it. This guy is dominant. I'm guessing you would have picked Scottie Scheffler, which is totally cool. I'm not like coming down on you. I wouldn't have, because as I've said before, that's the obvious one. I probably would have picked DeChambeau or Xander Schauffele, but neither of those won, and Scottie did. So I'm prepared to just give you that one, by the way, if you're ready, if you want to take it.
No, because in my mind I played it back, and there is a chance that I would have picked Scottie Scheffler. But there's also, because the Open Championship was played in Northern Ireland, that I also would have picked Rory.
Yes, and that would have been a pretty good pick as well. Yes, as played at Royal Portrush. So, I mean, Scheffler's just on a different level right now. So we don't necessarily need to spend that much time there, but he is putting up Tiger numbers here. There's no doubt about that. So I wanted to open with the WNBA CBA negotiations coming out of the All-Star game. And the reason I wanted to lead with this is because it has, I wouldn't say dominated, but it has captured a lot of share of voice in the sports business right now on all sides of the equation. And the usual suspects of fans are coming out that want to bash what they did. And just in case you don't know, listeners, the players came out for the shoot-around at the All-Star game with "Pay Us What You Owe Us" shirts. And not surprisingly, that rubs a lot of people the wrong way. And a lot of the people that maybe don't want to see them succeed or feel like they've been propped up by the NBA for too long are, voicing their opinions on whether that was a good move or not. But here's the reality of this situation. And first of all, the WNBA All-Star game hit great numbers from a viewership standpoint without Caitlin Clark even playing. I personally thought the game started getting a little close to what we're seeing in the NBA. And while I get the addition of the four-point shot and the sponsorship by AT&T, your former employer, I thought it was a little ridiculous that people were just lining up for that shot. Some 𝘲𝗎cie 𝗁𝗁 hitting some, obviously Ionescu hitting them as well, but a lot of people just firing up some serious bricks from there as well. But, one of the most interesting things that I saw with all of these, memes and so forth coming out about, oh, you want to get paid what you're owed. Oh, you're going to take a pay cut because you're losing money. One of the people we talk about often on this show because of his presence in the sport is Dave Portnoy of Barstool. And he came out and basically said, guys, you don't even know how professional sports work. The valuations of these teams have increased so significantly. There is so much interest in ownership. The numbers are going up dramatically in the Caitlin Clark era, both from an attendance standpoint and a TV standpoint. They just signed a deal worth way more than what they had from a television standpoint, and they get less than 10% of the revenue in the current CBA, whereas the NBA players make 50. And I'm not even suggesting that they get close to that number, but the reality is they're going to get paid more, and they deserve to get paid more.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I do think they run the risk of fostering some ill will if they're not careful how they handle the negotiation in public. To wit, the T-shirt, pay us what you...
Wait, what? To wit. I love it.
I
When
thought
McGee goes says to wit, he knows he's setting up for something serious.
The message conveyed in that T-shirt, pay us what you owe us, could be construed as greedy. Could be. I don't construe it that way. I think they could have used a copywriter, let's put it that way, on that T-shirt. Yes, they should be paid a lot more money. Yes, they should be getting more of the revenue. But I will say, in the owner's defense, the owners have not made a dime on a cash flow basis in the 25 plus years that the league has been in existence. Now, the counterpoint to that argument is there's 5 teams coming online over the next 5 years: Philly, Cleveland, Detroit, Portland, and Toronto. And those owners paid record amounts for those franchises. So A, the owners are getting that money split up amongst themselves, the current owners, and B, it demonstrates, to your point earlier, that the franchise values are going up. So they should be making a lot more money. I do think that they need to be a little bit more disciplined in their messaging coming out of their meetings with ownership. They met for the first time face-to-face in Indianapolis. Paige Bueckers, who's a rookie, and there used to be a time when rookies were seen and not heard, called the offer from the owners an insult, and it might very well be. I was not privy to that, but I do think that they should be careful on who's speaking on behalf of the players, in what context, and what they say. You mentioned Sabrina Ionescu before. She came out after the game and complained that the break needs to be longer, that's why there was such a disparity in the score, which is ridiculous because both teams had the same schedule. The reason there was a disparity in the score was probably in part, at least, because Caitlin Clark wasn't playing for Team Clark. So I do think that they need to be careful on how they present themselves and their positions in the public.
Great points all the way around, thus justifying your to wit, by the way.
Henceforth.
And I think this is a big moment for them, and they are going to see an increase. I absolutely agree. They're going to potentially lose a lot of people in the public battle. Some of them aren't going to be happy with anyone that's arguing for increased money with a league that hasn't, from a cash flow basis, made money. By the way, there are a lot of companies, publicly owned, private equity owned, et cetera, that are losing money hand over fist, and the CEOs and founders are still making a boatload of money. So let's be straight about that. And some sports have gone up and down.
Touche.
Their ups and downs as well. Jeez, this is going to be a great episode, man. I can't wait for what drops next. And the point about a copywriter, it is interesting because pay us what you owe us suggests that they should be getting, almost suggests they should be getting back pay, like we are owed this money, you need to pay us. And they could have massaged that. They could have gone clever.
Pay us what we're worth.
Something.
Pay us what we're worth.
Yeah, I think
right.
Yeah.
Let's there's any countless ways they could have gone with the T-shirt with a pithy saying that would have gotten their point across, I think, a little bit better than pay us what you owe us.
I tend to agree with that. The argument that I do hear from time to time is, respect the game, don't do that in that moment. And what I generally respond to that is that in a negotiation, or in life for that matter, you use the leverage that you have in the right moment. this clearly was the time they needed to make a statement and do something. So I'm not shocked, nor am I offended by the fact that they put something on and wore something at that time to show a sense of unity. But I think that two things. One, yes, it could have been worded slightly different to garner more support. And then to your earlier point as well, they could have been way more consistent, since that was a show of unanimity. They were all together in that message. Everybody wearing the same shirt during the shoot around is making sure everybody else is on point. And they do need to get better about that. So this is a big moment. They're going to probably make some mistakes, but hopefully for the continuation of the advancement of the popularity of the league and its importance, the WNBA's importance in the overall makeup of the movement for women's sports, it's an important moment. So I'm hoping it all ends up, coming out well, and it doesn't get too much more contentious at this point. And, it's something we'll be finding out over the next few weeks.
You and I have done countless negotiations over our careers, and I don't know about you, I have not negotiated a collective bargaining agreement. But I think we are now at the point in these discussions where both sides have staked out their position, and it's within that delta where the conversations will take place.
Mm-hmm.
And like any other labor negotiations, the less you hear, the better. Because then you can assume that there are meaningful conversations going on. Neither side wants to ruin whatever progress may have been made. So I am not optimistic that this labor agreement will be consummated without some sort of work stoppage, a lockout or a strike. I hope I am proven wrong.
You are predicting work stoppages. Here's a work stoppage. There's a work stoppage.
It's like Oprah and the Cars. You get
exactly
a strike, you get a lockout. No, I do think that the players are dug in, at least from what I have heard. And I do believe that the players have a very good negotiating position in terms of requesting more money. The league got an investment about a year ago. I believe it was $40 million, and not a dime of it went to the players. Now, I understood Cathy Engelbert's position at that point, which was, this money is going to go into marketing and growing the league and so forth. She can't say that anymore because of the new media deal.
The new media deal, which is $200 million per year, tripled the previous deal. And there is a 180% increase on the team valuation. So those are the two stats that they obviously will ride into getting something a little more. And they are the game. I mean, you can say what you will, but people coming out to the game, the interest of investors is in the game. And it's these, star young players that are coming into the league that I think are, increasing that level of excitement and interest, and therefore they're going to get paid, and they do have a strong suit. I agree with that. The question is what's that percentage of the money coming into that is going to the players? It's going to be somewhere between 10% and 50%. All right.
From the sublime to the ridiculous, before we get off of the WNBA, the amount of coverage that Paige Bueckers got for going public about her relationship with 𝘕𝗍𝗄𝘓, I just found a bit ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. Here's two young women in their 20s dating. Whoop-de-doo. Why was that new? I understand they were teammates and she's the star rookie. I just don't understand why it's such a big.
I think it's more the fact that they were teammates on that team.
Listen, I hope they have a happy and healthy relationship, but young people in their 20s date. I mean, that's what they do.
She clearly felt a need that they were going to go public with the thing and just set it to rest, and that's why I think that it garnered the attention because they came out and wanted to make a point, just basically to say, okay, cover it like you will, and then let's get over it, people. So from that standpoint, I respect what they did as a couple, and
now I don't know if they were dating last year when they were teammates, but all I could think about is that's just another layer of complexity that Geno Auriemma has to contend with in this new world of NIL and players going pro. Hopefully they don't, and just as young people who date have arguments and fights, and that can upset a locker room. So clearly it didn't have any impact on their success this year. But I was just thinking about what Geno Auriemma has to deal with as a coach, right? That's just one more thing he has to deal with his players about, potentially.
He seems to manage things as they pop up, doesn't he? So I imagine he'll
yeah, he's done okay. He's done okay for himself.
Okay, what's next big? We have a great guest coming up soon, so
very cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to him. Couple things. Not to tip our hand too much, but the NFL Players Association, Lloyd Howell, resigned as the executive director. Now, there were some questions about him with workplace environment and things like that, but the reason that was cited for him leaving the Players Association was colluding with owners about free agency and going after the free agents, which to me is the cardinal sin of somebody in the Players Association. You're shaking your head. Are you going to agree with me? Or?
No, this story is this is a complete shit show. At the NFLPA. I mean, I can't believe what's coming out, and I think this is going to be a story that we're going to be hearing about because new things are coming out. So not only does he resign, supposedly of his own volition, but the chief strategy officer, J.C. Tretter,
who was seen as his potential successor.
Correct. And he's somewhat starting to talk about the straw poll discussions that they had, that Howell was never really the choice. But they had all these workplace things at his former job.
And the current job.
And the current job. And Russell Reynolds apparently was aware of all those things, and still somehow he made it through while still having a role with that company. That was one of the companies cleared to potentially be involved in investment in the teams. It's
not a good luck for a search firm. I wish we would have had this story before we had Scott Carmichael come on. Right. It would have been very interesting to get his take on that. I mean, DeMaurice Smith was, by all accounts, a real hard ass, but he was a hard ass on behalf of his rank and file.
I mean, if you're the players thinking about this right now, I mean, I can't even imagine. First of all, I'm guessing if Russell Reynolds is involved currently in starting to shape what the hiring is, I think that has to change pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I would understand it if the next executive director of the NFLPA is the hardest line labor guy, like Don Fehr.
No, I'm thinking about the first Players Association guy from the Major League Baseball. Marvin Miller. Excuse me. Marvin Miller.
So point being is someone in the model of a super hardline labor guy that just will negotiate very strong, and the compromise is something that they make sure gets weighted in their favor.
Yeah, you know who they need is they need a modern day, a latter day Eugene Debs, right? Socialist, American political activist, trade unionist. He founded the IWW, the Wobblies, the weird wobbly guys. You didn't get my National Lampoon reference there. IWW, weird wobbly guys.
Well, I can tell it sounds like it was a Bill Murray bit.
Yes. He was president. Eugene Debs was president of the American Railway Union.
Well, yeah, this is really a wild story that I think is it still seems to have a lot of legs. Like, what the hell was going on in that selection committee?
Yeah, but to your point, whoever they select, there has to be not a whiff of,
conflict.
Where is this guy's allegiance going to be? He is accused of colluding with the owners. It's the head of a Players Association. I wouldn't be surprised if the Players Association tries to claw back some of the salary they paid this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. This is both a big story right in this second, and certainly something that we're going to have our eye on and maybe talking about it as more things become revealed. Want to talk NASCAR a little bit on a couple fronts. number one, it's been announced that the Chicago race is not coming back and that San Diego has been signed, things we've talked about. I want to say this, past guest Julie Ghezzi, who's the president of the NASCAR Chicago street race, I think would be one heck of a person to run that San Diego race, don't you think?
I think she's probably, if hasn't already, will be getting a call pretty soon about that position.
But they have kept open the idea that Chicago could come back. So maybe she's just moving back and forth between San Diego and Chicago. San Diego is going to be out on the Coronado area, which I just think is going to be awesome. I'm actually kind of looking forward to that race now as well.
If she's lucky and that does work out for her, hopefully she gets to spend winters in San Diego and summers in Chicago.
Yeah,
although
right.
San Diego is beautiful any time of the year.
All time. And another place that's beautiful, NASCAR related, is anywhere that you go as it relates to Joe Gibbs Racing, because you've seen back-to-back with races you've gone to at those two, quote from Jake LaLetta, garden spots that you chose, Pocono and Dover, Delaware. Saw back-to-back 1-2 finishes by JGR. So they need to keep bringing you back.
I'm surprised the hard card isn't in the mail for me already, quite frankly, the way I bring that team luck. But yeah, Denny Hamlin won the race, and Chase Briscoe, who, as you know, my client Campbell's is an associate sponsor on the number 19 Bass Pro Shops car. He came in second, and he's having a nice season. His first year full cup ride with the JGR. Chase Briscoe's having a nice year,
no doubt. So the story is moving quickly. The 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports taking on NASCAR, of course, around the charter. They didn't agree to sign the charter deal, feeling that they were owed more. Back and forth injunctions. They were cleared to race as though they had a charter, and then NASCAR won in the court and prevented them. But the most recent news that I've seen is that they don't appear to be in danger of at least missing a race, because they basically can race as a guest, at least for this year. But this seems to be going a little further than maybe we thought when we originally brought it up. And everything I've heard is Michael is saying, I'm going all the way on this. And I think that we had discussed it when we first brought up this story, that if anyone could take this to its, all the way through the court hearings, it's MJ.
Well, I was talking to a team president at the track on Sunday. It was not Jake LaLetta of 2311, and they are convinced that this is going to go to trial at this point. So when you have somebody like Jim France, who doesn't like to lose, you have Michael Jordan, who hates to lose, you have two sides that are probably going to go at it pretty hard with this thing. And it'll be interesting to see. And now what happens if NASCAR prevails in this court race? Do they revoke the charters? Do 2311 and Front Row sign the charters as is like the rest of the teams? It'll be really interesting, really, really interesting to see. So what do you say? We take a break? Our guest is ready to join us?
Let's do it.
Okay, we'll be back in a minute.
It's time for our guest.
With NFL training camps opening, we felt it was a time for a very special guest, and we're thrilled to welcome a two-time Super Bowl champion, a member of one of the greatest defenses in NFL history, a member of the New York Football Giants Ring of Honor, number 70, Leonard Marshall. Of course, we wouldn't put it past ourselves to have Leonard on just so we could have these fanboy discussions with him. But the main reason we wanted to have Leonard on is because of what he has done since he retired from the game, which is, well, it's quite a lot. And we're going to try and cover a good amount of that. So Leonard, welcome to Wait What?
Thank you, fellas. Thank you very much for having me. I'm thrilled and I'm honored. And at the same time, very humbled to be in this position.
Well, we appreciate you taking some time to join us. So we're gonna start with a football talk.
Sure, let's do it.
Because we normally talk sports-biz stuff, so this is kind of fun for us to have a football talk.
Okay.
So Giants are actually opening camp this week. Obviously they've been through a lot over the last few years. They seem to have their quarterback in place now. Any expectations that you have for the team this year that you can share? You think they'll surprise at all?
I think that the Giants did as good, if not as better, than teams that we drafted back in my era of playing for them. What I like about the nucleus of the group and what they were able to do in this year's draft is it resembles what we did in 1986. If you go back and you look at it, in 86, we drafted 5 guys in the first 4 rounds that were contributing players in our championship run in 1986. We drafted John Washington, Eric Dorsey, Mark Collins, Thomas Pepper Johnson, Greg Lasker, and I believe there's one other player that became a contributor on that team that played on defense, and I'm trying to remember exactly who that was. Eric Howard.
Wow.
Number 74, our nose tackle. So this year's draft resembles that draft in 86. And you get players like Abdul Carter. You get players like the young man, Alexander, in the 3rd or 4th round. And you get him to join a group, such as prestigious as Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau and a couple of these other kids have become real stellar players. I'm still waiting for a breakout from a couple of them, but the fact that they're becoming stellar players and they're growing gives me a lot of hope in that our team was always known for playing strong defense. We didn't care about how many points you scored on offense. We just cared that we got a chance to go out and beat the hell out the other team with our defense. And we tell Phil Simms, just don't lose the game. And so I kind of see that happening with this football team. You got a young quarterback coming in. You got a vet quarterback coming in Russell Wilson. And as long as they keep it simple and play within themselves, and the elephants on both sides of the ball show up, both the offensive and defensive line, because that's where the game is won. It's won in the trenches. I don't care what nobody tells me. You could throw it as far as you can, and you could run it as much as you can. But I tell you what, when it comes down to where you win the game, you win it with the elephants on both sides of the ball.
Okay. David, you're our elephant.
Yeah.
So
happy to
Leonard,
play that role.
Leonard, you retired after the 1994 season, storied career. We could talk the entire episode about your accomplishments and accolades that you got, but you decided to go back to get your MBA in finance after you retired. What drove that decision? Why was it important for you to go back and get that degree?
Well, the one thing I recall in 1983 when I joined the team, Bill Parcells was looking for something a lot different than what he had in 82 and 81 when he was an assistant. And they brought in a guy by the name of Joel Goldberg, who was a career consultant. And his job was to help some of these young players to focus outside the game of football and think about life afterwards. So I immediately took a liking to him and took a liking to some of the programs that they were beginning to implement. George Young thought that it would be in the best interest of players to do it, and I took full advantage of it. One of my greatest accomplishments is our second championship season, I obtained my bachelor's degree from Fairleigh Dickinson. I was one of probably 5 players, including George Martin and Harry Carson, who were on their way out as players. And my dear friend and one of my best guys on the team, who is now a professor at Long Island University, Mr. Perry Williams. So it was in my best interest to go back and do that because I saw a lot of players as they hung up the cleats, they were lost. They didn't have nowhere to go. And I didn't want to be that guy when my career ended.
That's great. That's
great
really,
maturity,
really
great foresight on your part.
Yeah, I think we'll chat about that a little further later in this discussion. But you have served on boards of a number of companies, and I saw that you had been on the diversity board at LSU, which is where you kind of rose to prominence as a player. What do you look for when it comes to board opportunities? I imagine you have opportunities, given your fame, particularly in an area like the New York metropolitan area. What things do you look for that say that's something I want to be involved in?
I look at their position in their business, the structure of their organization, what commitment they've made to community. I apply some of the principles of football on what I learned from football. I had 2 great minds in Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells to work with. Parcells, a guy who prided himself on toughness, and toughness at every point and pivot in your life. And a guy like Belichick, who was the mastermind of integrity and trusting what you see and trusting what you do and what you believe in. So I guess if I was to take, my takeaway would be commitment builds character, and character builds champions. So when I look at your organization and you ask me to join you, I want to know what your commitment is in terms of what you're looking to accomplish. I want to know that your organization is one that is of character, and that the people that are dynamically working in your organization are as committed as you are to creating a success. And then I look at, the way you champion yourself. What have you done? What are you continuing to do? And then what is your vision 10 years down the road? And if they all align with each other, I look to get involved.
I want to shift gears a little bit. You've been very active in speaking out about an issue that's a very serious one in the NFL, namely that of CTE, and it's affected you directly. Give us and our listeners a sense of how you've become involved with CTE awareness, and do you think the NFL is doing enough currently to address this issue?
So in the 2005, 6, 7, and 8s, I started receiving a lot of phone calls from friends around the league, guys that played for teams that weren't in big markets, guys that played in teams that were big markets. And 2011-12, I watched my friend 𝗕𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗗𝗏 commit suicide. Like that, I watched another teammate in 𝘕𝗕Robi commit suicide. And I started to think about what I was doing in my life and where things were going with me. And my situation wasn't as bad as theirs. I would never have done what these men did. However, I wanted to try to figure out a way to help them. Because I played in a big market, I had a big reach and a big voice because of these championship rings. I kind of want to be able to help some guys get some help that they weren't receiving from the National Football League and their teams. And I think we all made an impact. I think we opened up America's eyes to the root cause of the problem, which was head trauma associated with the helmet. Players have been able to gain some compensation for their families. Some of these guys who are severely debilitated from professional football. And hopefully a lot of these guys that had these issues, they're now doing well and better than they were some 17 to 20 years ago.
Well, it certainly is an important issue, and thank you for your involvement. Spending most of my adult life in Chicago, and I fell in love with the Bears around the time of their Super Bowl win in that '85 season, and had an opportunity to meet Dave when he was a very important supplier to McDonald's during my time at McDonald's Corporation, and just an unbelievable guy and a tragic loss, obviously. And so I'm sorry for your loss as someone that was a good friend of his.
Thank you, David. I mean, he was not only my teammate and friend, my fraternity brother. I remember writing a letter for him on my behalf to 𝗦𝗫𝗫𝗫 to have him go ahead and pledge a graduate chapter in Chicago. Dave was a wonderful person, man. Wonderful person.
Yeah. I want to shift back a little and talk about some other businesses. You partner with the NFL and licensees, and I wanted to just have you chat about some of those things that you do, and including a current project that you're working on in the high-end leather goods area with a mutual friend that we have, one Kevin McCrudden.
Yes.
So wanted to, get what's going on with that project, but also other things you do in terms of growth of licensed products in conjunction with the NFL.
Sure. So, Kevin was very pivotal with me and very transparent with an opportunity with his partners or people he works for in the city that happen to be manufacturing leather merchandise for Major League Baseball and Ralph Lauren. They came to me and asked me would I join them, become a partner, and securitize a relationship with the National Football League. Being that I was a former NFL licensee and know the street and know how to navigate my way throughout working with NFL properties, I went out, helped them secure a license, and we opened a company, and we're now manufacturing 6 items in the leather category, and we plan to do it big. I mean, we're on slate this year to do about 2.5 to 3 million in our first year of operation, and we're pretty excited about it.
That's great. And staying along the lines of work projects that you have going on, as if you don't have enough other things going on, you also work with a company called TKO Financial Group. It's a financial and insurance advisory firm. Give us a quick overview of how you and your organization help your clients.
Well, I've been in the money business now since retiring from football, some 30 to 35 years. I've been around this type of work. You know, I owned a mortgage bank in Florida. I lent money on my own. I was in the ATM business at one time with, I don't know, some 30 ATM machines in South Florida. I sold that business, and when I relocated back to New Jersey, I hit the ground running. I hit the ground running hard, and I got back in the financial services arena. Previously, I worked for Rockefeller Capital for over 2 years. I worked with a private wealth group at Rockefeller Capital. I joined UBS for a brief stint, and then I discovered this great agency in Ohio called TKO Financial Group, and I kept saying to myself, I'm beating my head up trying to figure out a way to help young college athletes and young entertainers establish a platform for themselves and then develop a plan for legacy wealth. When watching athletes previously in my career play the game of football and tons of money run through their fingers and through their hands, I said to myself, there has to be a better way to do this and a better mousetrap to help configure. And I said, how was I so lucky to save 7 figures of money and live in a 7-figure home well into my 60s and have done well professionally? I guess I could contribute that to listening to the people that influenced me, and maybe perhaps I can go and influence some other young people to follow the yellow brick road like me. So a dear friend of mine contacted me by the name of, he's become a dear friend quickly, by the name of 𝘕𝗎𝗄𝗧, who is the principal of my firm at TKO in White Cliff, Ohio. And his cohort, the principal in M Financial, Mr. Mark Pollock. And these guys decided to bring me on board, educate me in the insurance products that they offer, sell, and distribute. Teach me and show me how we can develop a product, which we've now done a pretty good job of building. We built the product. We call it the Leonard Marshall Waterfall Trust, and it mimics the Waterfall Trust that Rockefeller built for his family, which is on their 8th generation of usage at this point. So nothing would make me happier that when I'm gone, some 30 to 40 to 50 years from now, that my family will still be living out of a trust that I built for my efforts as not only as an athlete, but my efforts off the field and the different businesses that I've been involved with. So I made a commitment to join him. I made a commitment to join TKO and to join Chris. And every day is like learning a new giant playbook, fellas. Every day I get enamored with some new language, some new lingo, some nuances, and some things in the financial markets that I didn't know before. And I got to tell you, I'm becoming strategically versed that I'm about to become dangerous, guys. I'm pretty close to becoming dangerous.
Well, you said at the beginning of that answer that you'd been in the money business for a while, and I guess my initial thought was, well, in one way or another, maybe just not as successfully, we're all somewhat in the money business. I mean, that's the business is always ends up being that, but it looks like you've navigated it quite well, and congratulations on having things like that that are legacy projects.
Thank you very much.
Earlier this year,
speaking of congratulations,
you were named to the Gridiron Greats Hall of Fame, another just great honor for you. And given that the Gridiron Greats is involved in helping people and helping, former players and such, like that mission, how much did that award, that recognition to make it into the Hall of Fame of that organization mean to you?
Let me tell you, I can't speak enough good about what it means to me to be honored and reveled as a player by 𝗦𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗧. I think 𝗦𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗧 is one of the most respected he's a coach in football that I had the most respect for because he played the game, he coached the game, he taught the game, and he took boys and turned them into men. That '85 Bear team was one of the most fierce, competitive football teams I was able to watch. And we learned a lesson from that football team in 1985, okay? And that's why we were as good as we were in 1986, because of what we learned from that team. Now, given the fact that that Hall of Fame encompasses some of the greatest players of all time. I mean, I'm there with Mike. I'm there with Jim Marshall. I'm there with Willie Lanier. I'm there with Bobby Bell. I'm there with my dear friend and buddy Jimbo Colbert, who I have a hell of a lot of respect for. I'm there with my boy, the Colonel, Richard Dent, who I've known for a long time and been boys with for a long time. And I get chills when I think about that because, not only did I enjoy it, my family was there with me. My wife really had fun that weekend. And great honor, fellas. Great honor.
Before we let you go, Leonard, there's a question that we ask all of our guests. We're going to adjust it slightly for you.
Sure.
And we could probably do a whole episode just on your thoughts on this. But the question we have is, what's one piece of advice you would give to a young professional athlete that wants to have the off-field success post-playing days that you've had?
I'm going to take it from my buddy Bill Parcells. Just remember one thing, Leonard. As long as you're green, you'll continue to grow. It's when you think you're ripe, you'll begin to rot. So, you young players, be a sponge. Listen, learn, challenge yourself. Go fail. Go fail multiple times. It'll make you better. And if it doesn't make you better, you're not built for this. You're not built to be a champion. But if you're built to be a champion, learn to get up one more time, then you could be knocked down. Because there's going to come a point in time in your life when someone's going to tell you no. And that no has to motivate you to make you want to tell them yes. And the yes has to be greater and has to be a greater reach for you. Because if it doesn't, one, you'll never become one of these, which is to become one of the 100 greatest players in the history of the Giants. It's something I dreamed of doing as a player and never thought I'd see it come to fruition. The night I was given this shirt was the greatest night of my life because that can never be taken from me, and I earned it. Young people, go earn it. I know you want the big car. I know you want the big check. I know you want the hot girl. Go earn it. You'll appreciate it more.
Well, Leonard, everything that you achieved, you certainly earned, and I know it was a lot of hard work to achieve that level of excellence as a player and win as you did, but you've also been pretty impressive at winning at life, and for that, we all are fortunate to be able to have that and have that input, so we appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's why I respect you men so much. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Best to you in every endeavor that you choose to pursue.
You and Tim, man, I'll see you guys on the other side.
That would be great.
Thank you,
All
Leonard.
All right,
Take
brother.
care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, fellas.
Pictures you share with me.
All right, we are back, and Tim, that was a fun chat with Leonard. Talk about a guy that just likes getting after it.
Yeah, I have mentioned this guy before. He's a friend of mine here in Summit by the name of Rich Lamello, who's got a podcast called Chasing Hardware. And what he does is he talks to athletes, retired athletes from across the world of sports, about what it was like to pursue and win championships, and in some cases lose championships. And I've always been jealous of Rich and the guests that he gets. Not that our guests are bad, but he fanboys out every episode, right? That's what his show's about. And so I got a little taste of what my friend Rich Lamello is doing with Chasing Hardware with Leonard. But what a fantastic guest he was.
Totally see that. Well, we have reached that time in the show that we set aside to give random shout-outs, answer any questions, make apologies, whatever, or generally take a look forward to stories or events that we're following. So, Tim, what do you have your eye on?
Well, probably the biggest story in sports over the last, decade or two, at least maybe even 30 years, the premiere of Happy Gilmore 2 on Netflix at the end of this week. I'm looking forward to that. Some companies are really getting behind it. Callaway has created a hockey stick putter that has sold out, dozen golf balls or a box of golf balls, $60. I think they're really leaning into it. So I think it's a great melding of marketing and film And from what I've heard, the film isn't that bad. So
available only on Netflix, right? Streaming
yes.
on Netflix.
Yeah. What
Can't
about
wait.
yourself, partner?
Well, I definitely am excited about that possibility. I do have to give a couple shout outs here, shout out time. One is to Kevin McCrudden, who was the mutual friend of mine and Leonard's that helped arrange this interview. So big thanks to him. He's a wonderful guy. I also want to give a shout out to 𝗕𝗔𝗰𝗀𝗧 and his students at the Wharton Sports Business Academy. Man, Tim, I spoke to these high school students yesterday from all over the world. They were really impressive, I got to tell you. So good job on that, Rob. Quick shout out to people that I think we both mutually respect, Greg Bush and Mike Boykin, who started Bespoke Sports Entertainment. They got acquired by Publicis. I think that's a big interesting because they've been very proudly independent. So that's an interesting bit in the news. And a story that I think we're going to have to follow as much as we may not want to follow it. And that is what is going to happen, particularly with the Commanders. And will Josh Harris be as vocal in his opposition to not changing the name back as the Guardians have been, with the pressure coming from the White House on changing the name? And in the case of the Commanders, possibly even threatening some action to make their new stadium deal a little more difficult. I don't know why this is being discussed at that level. It was a decision that was made by the previous owner. You don't have to like it. I understand that a lot of people never were happy with the name change, but getting involved in holding this stuff up seems a little ridiculous to me. But it's going to be a story that we have to follow because it's going to be a story.
We have to follow it. It is important in the business of sports. I am tangentially related to the Commanders through my oversight on behalf of Campbell's. I do think the president does not have as much ability to influence this deal as he might think or might have led his followers to believe. But we will see. Whenever you're dealing with municipal government, it's always fraught with complexities, competing interests. There's an added layer of complexity because it also happens to be our nation's capital. I do believe at the end of the day, it's going to be much ado about nothing. And if the stadium deal doesn't go through, which is always a possibility, again, when you're dealing with municipal governments, I don't think it will be related to the announcement.
I think the question is whether Josh Harris decides that it's just easier to do that, knowing that a lot of the fans would probably welcome the name coming back, but
they have said that this was before the announcement, that changing the name back was not on the table. It remains to be seen if that's the case. I do want to sort of echo your sentiments to Greg Bush and Mike Boykin. After you told me about it, I had not seen it. I shot Mike a text congratulating him, and of course I said, next time you're buying lunch.
Definitely. No doubt about that.
No, but they have built such a great organization
sure have.
down there, but not just in terms of their client roster, but the culture they've built. And you can't think of two nicer guys in the sports business than Mike Boykin and Greg Bush.
Yeah, they're first class. All right, I think it's time to shut this down. I know you have some work to do, Tim, and wishing you a lot of luck down there in Austin.
Thank you.
As always, thank you, listeners, for spending some time with us. It does mean a lot. Make sure you hit that follow button on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. It's easy to do. Just hit the follow. And it's certainly easy to find us almost anywhere at DP and McGee, whether that's on TikTok, on Instagram, etc. We'll be back next week with another in our Legends series. So back-to-back amazing guests. Well, not just back-to-back. It's just like a whole slew of the guests we're having are just amazing. I can't wait for it next week, though. I'm really excited about that. But until then, I'm DP. He's McGee, and we'll talk soon.